So we're going to start with primer. Obviously, the video is about Fenty, so I'm going to pop on my Fenty primer. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be voiceover style because I don't know why. This might have been late in the day, but my energy was really low in this video. So basically, I'm going to be doing a full face of Fenty, and I'm going to be using two foundations. I bought one at the end of the summer, and I bought one in like the beginning of the year. So I have two shades that kind of work for my complexion. I'm going to start with the lighter one in the center of my face, and then I'm going to start to put the darker one on the outside of my face. The lighter one that I'm putting on now is in 385. And the other one that I'm going to place on the outside of my face, which is this one, is going to be in 410. One thing that I've really been trying to pay attention to is product placement. You can have the same amount of products on your face, but I just feel like wherever you place your product is kind of where it should stay. And that kind of like helps you blend things faster. So me putting the darker shade on the outside of my face helps me later on in the process when it comes to bronzing and adding contour, because I already have those different shades on my face to easily blend into my next product. Like I always say, take your time when you're blending your base, because that is the foundation of where your rest of your makeup is going to sit on. So take your time and blend. And I went from the outside in because I don't want to drag that lighter shade across my face and make my face look too pale. So I went with blending out the deeper shade first and then dragging that in. So if I need to lighten the center of my face more, which I will, I can just clean that up with concealer. It'll be an easier fix to blend that way versus blending the middle of my face out. Now that I've got my blend to where I want it, we're going to move on to concealer. I do have two concealer shades. One thing I will say is I'm honestly not a fan of the Fenty concealers. This is my second time recording this video for you guys because I've already recorded it once. But the thing is, when it comes to Fenty concealers, me personally, I feel like they're kind of thick and like heavy on the skin. And I'm not so sure that I like that. Most of the time when I use it, even if I only use a little, it still just creates creases under my eyes. Like, it might be me. If anybody else has used Fenty concealers, let me know if that happens to you. Because mostly 95% of the time, when I use this, I crease under my eye. Alright, so now we're going to move on to contouring or cream bronzering, if that's even a word. But basically, I'm going to be using the Fenty matchsticks in the shade Espresso, and I'm going to be putting it where I want shadows and where I want just my face to have more deeper tones. This will give you that snatched effect. I give myself lines from about my ear to about underneath my eye, and I just blend it with a brush that's like kind of fluffy but kind of dense at the same time. I got this brush from a set from Amazon. Once I blend that out, I go back in and create another line near my ear diagonally just to really give me that snatched effect. And I don't blend it out as much because I want it to stay there. Then we're going to move on to blending out our concealer under the eye. I like to let my concealer sit. So I usually go on to move around my face and do other things while the concealer gets a chance to thicken up to give me the most coverage. And it depends on what mood I'm in, whether or not I'm going to use a brush or if I'm going to use a sponge. I mostly use sponges for concealers that are a little bit more creamier than this one. So that's why I figured I would use a brush to give me like a better blend. The sponge can take up some of your product, but I really didn't put a lot of product on to begin with this concealer because I know that it's already thick and it's not as creamy as like my Tarte one. So I'm going to just take my time and blend that concealer into my skin. Once I'm happy with the blend, I'm going to put 1 or 2 tiny little dots underneath my contour, and I'm going to let that sit. While I let that sit, I'm going to use this lighter concealer shade that I got from Fenty just for brightening. These are the difference between the two. The one was the first one that I used, and this second one is for brightening. And I'm just going to try to focus that on the inner portion of my under eye. Once I'm done blending this out, I will go under and, blend that cheek. Blend that concealer that I just placed under my contour to give me that really snatched effect. You see it? Don't do that. Don't play with her. And then I'm gonna use the brush that I use just to make sure it's not super ashy looking under there. You want it to be there, but you don't want it to be looking ashy and crazy. So make sure you take your time and blend everything together if you do decide to use that step. And then we're gonna move on to blush. I got this cream blush from Fenty. I think it's in the shade Petal Poppin'. And it's cute, but I think I like my cream blushes that I got from Shein a little bit better. But, it's cute. I just don't feel like you see it after a while. And then I have 2 pressed powders or loose powders from Fenty. I like the one because it's a whiter shade for brightening, and the other one, it has like a yellow shade, which is like good for melanin. And I spilled some. I'm going to go in first with the more whiter shade, and then I'm going to use the yellow shade after. The one that's more white will give me more brightening effect. That's in the shade Butter. And the one that is just good for melanated skin, the yellowish one, that is in the shade Honey. I am using a kind of dense brush, but I have very, very, very little product on this brush because when I was filming this before, I feel like her powders are also thick and I don't want it to get cakey, so I just wanted to take a little bit of powder at a time. Then we're going to start to contour our nose. I used the shade Espresso around my face, but on my nose, I don't like it as harsh. So I'm just going to go in with the shade Truffle, make those 2 lines, and use this brush from Morphe that I always use, and blend that cream product up. It is a little bit more matte and stiff, so I don't have to worry about it running all over my nose and looking too crazy. But yeah, and I like to make sure I blend that into the front of my brows, because if you haven't been on Instagram and seen the trend, then I don't know where you've been. But here's the difference between the two. The one on, the one that was darker was Espresso, and the one that I'm using now is Truffle. And then I just took a little tiny bit of concealer just to clean up my nose. Just a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and lightly set the rest of my face. I didn't want to set my face before I put on the cream blush. I did use just like a tiny bit of both of those powders. I didn't want to use a lot because I also have like the powder foundation. So I don't want to load powder on powder on powder when I know that her products are kind of heavy. So just a light dusting. That's why you can barely even see it on my brush. But then we're going to move on to bronzer. I have 2 bronzers. One is Coco Naughty, which is the one I used today. And then I have Mocha Mami. Mocha Mami usually works more for me when it's the summertime. And since it's like winter, spring, I'm still lighter. So I'm going to just use the Coco Naughty to give me the bronze effect that I'm looking for. It really just, gives your skin like that sun-kissed look. I really prefer bronzing over contouring because, I don't know, just something about bronzer just makes you look like chef's kiss. Like, it's just beautiful. And I really, really love Fenty's bronzers, but also I really love Black Radiance bronzers. But we're not here to talk about that. We're going to move on to the foundation powder. I have 2 shades, but today I just used my lighter shade. And I believe that is in 385. No, it's in 345. And I'm going to go ahead and just lightly set where I brightened. Because this powder is a little bit lighter than my actual skin shade, I want to focus it on areas that I want the light to hit, where I want the brightness to be. So under my eye, center of my forehead, and underneath my bronzer. I'm going to be using this Fenty lipstick in the shade PMS. It's like a brown, but it kind of has like red in it, which I don't use this often because it's more like a fall type of lip color. And, I'm really a nude lip girl, so I don't really use this like grungy brown, but it actually is really cute. And then I went in with something peachy. This is from e.l.f. It's called Peach Bellini. And then we're going to move on to the eyes. We will come back to the lips because I did realize that I had another gloss from her that I put on later. And on the eyes, I'm just putting concealer down to cancel out any of my natural darkness. I mean, my eyes aren't dark, but you guys can see the difference before I put the concealer on versus after I put concealer on. And I'm just going to try to experiment with some of the products that I have. I didn't pick up an eyeshadow palette from her because I just didn't feel like for the price it was worth it. I really have a lot of eyeshadow palettes that I could have just grabbed, but I wanted to keep most of the video Fenty. But I'm going to take that bronzer shade and I'm going to pack that all over my crease as my transition shade. I tried to get a little bit spicy for you guys. I wanted to keep it entertaining. So I'm basically just patting that until I get it to where I want it to be. You should see the shadow, but don't go up too far that you no longer see the highlight and the effort that you put into those brows. Then after that, I'm going to take the Fenty matchstick in the espresso shade and try to deepen up the crease with that. I understand that it's a cream product, but I wanted to see if I can make it work for me. Like, multi-use products for the win. Like, if I buy it and I can use it for multiple things than what it's just bought for, then why wouldn't I try? So I'm pretty much just going to be putting that in the crease to try to deepen up my crease because I don't have a darker shade of bronzer. And then you'll see me go in and try to do a little cut crease with this other matchstick that I have from Fenty. It is in the shade Caramel. It came in a set of 3 when I bought it a long time ago. And I don't really use it as much because it's really matte. And I really don't like things that are super, super matte under my under eye. So I don't know where else I would use it. If you guys have any ideas, let me know because I have no clue. But that wasn't getting the center of my eye as light as I wanted it. So as you can see, I just opted to use some more concealer. And to set that, I'm going to use a powder. It was the Invisimatte blotting powder from Fenty. But it's basically like a colorless powder that I just put on top because I don't want to just leave the cream on my lid because it'll crease. So, yep. I'm going ahead now and basically just stamping that concealer where I want my cut crease, my cheek cut crease to kind of go. After my liner, I just popped on some lashes. These lashes are from Amazon. And then I'm going to set my face using the Fenty setting spray. I actually really like this setting spray. I usually use it when I feel like my skin is a little too matte and I want it to look more skin-like. And now we're going to go ahead and highlight the tip of our nose and down the center of the nose. I'm not really like a super outrageous highlighter girl, but for the sake of the video, I did highlight my cheeks, which I don't usually do. It really depends on what mood I'm in. So I'm going to use this sponge and just lightly apply some on the rest of my face. And then we're going to go in with the Fenty Gloss Cream in the shade Mob Wives. It's like a cute, I don't know, purpley pink color that I really can only use when I put a lot of lip liner on. But this is pretty much the look. Get into the face. I know we had ups and downs in this video, but honestly, it came out so bomb, so good. So thank you so much for watching. This is a insert of what the face looks like close up. And give me a thumbs up and let me know what you guys want to see from me next. And I'll catch you in my next video. Love you. Bye.